And these inmates have 24 hours to hide anything. So we got to beat them at what they do in 8 hours of our shift.
These officers go through every inch of the inmate's cell.
These particular ones have a little button right here which you can remove, in which they can hide contrabands inside the TV itself without breaking the seal. Right here would be fishing line, which we consider contraband. Inmates would take this, they would attach an object on this end, throw it under the door, exchange information, food, weapons with the fishing line. Sometimes you come across small items like this that you have to look for a piece of heroin the size of a match head.
As part of their efforts to neutralize gangs at Corcoran, officers with the ISU have collected examples of weapons and drugs confiscated from inmates.
This was cereal, and what they're doing is they get boxes of cereal and break a piece of cereal, put a small bundle of heroin or methamphetamine in, and coat it back with the cereal and glue it and put them back in the box, reseal it, and send it in. If you were to purchase an ounce of heroin on the streets, you can purchase it anywhere from around $800 to $1,000. You can turn around and sell that ounce of heroin inside Corcoran State Prison for anywhere from $30,000 to $36,000.
For the Aryan Brotherhood, drugs were a long-standing source of cash. Protection was another, and a lot simpler than smuggling drugs. Pay the AB and get security from other prisoners. Among the Brotherhood's most high-profile clients was the Teflon Don, John Gotti. In 1996, Gotti was serving a life sentence without parole at the federal penitentiary at Marion when he was approached by the Brotherhood.
John wasn't no punk. John was standing on his own feet. You got to remember something. John came up in the streets, but John was alone. Now, John left his world. Now he's in our world. And this is our world. Make no mistake about that. We run this world.
After 2 years of kicking more than $50,000 in protection money to the AB, Gotti decided that he had enough of his own foot soldiers in custody to protect him. He was wrong.
When he stopped paying protection, the Aryan Brotherhood employed the services of someone associated with the Black Guerrilla family, an African-American, and had that African-American assault Gotti.
Gotti is attacked in the yard and asks the AB to reinstate his protection and to kill his attacker.
He was farming out to any white groups that could pick it up, but specifically the AB. He wanted this guy hit.
Gotti dies of throat cancer before the hit is ever carried out. Some believe the brand never intended to do the deed. Instead, the gang was flexing its muscle, fleecing the one-time head of the Gambino crime family. Underlying the Brotherhood's operations is a complex system of communications. At Corcoran, officers John Lunas and David Gomez monitor and disrupt the chatter between gang members.
What we have here is what we call kites. And what they do is, these are a means of communicating. Well, the reason why these particular kites are in an envelope was that because these kites were transported from another institution in a rectum of an inmate.
But they don't write one kite. If one guy comes down, it's not like we send one letter. They'll send 4 or 5 or 6 different of the same notes. That way, if we catch one, the chances are out of one of those 5 or 6, one's going to get to the guy.
Another means of communication dates back decades.
So I'd get on the phone, talk to him through the toilet. You pump the water out of the toilets, and you talk through the pipes. It's just as good as Ma Bell. I mean, so we get party lines and everything going. It's all cool, right?
They also send messages written with invisible ink.
I used to be called hit and miss, the old slang term hit and miss, which meant piss. Literally piss, urine. And you write in it, and when you heat it up, it turns brown.
But the most complex correspondence for the AB is drawn from a 16th century philosopher named Sir Francis Bacon. The Baconian or biliteral cipher is a complicated code using 2 different alphabets to mask a single message. Printed letters are assigned an A, while letters written in cursive are given a B. The different combinations of A's and B's represent letters of the alphabet. In this code, BBBAA equals the letter C, while AAABB represents the letter O. The result, confirm message. These codes kept the Aryan Brotherhood alive for decades. They also helped the federal government bring the most wide-ranging indictment ever against them. November 1998. Racial tensions boil over at the ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado. Aryan Brotherhood leader T.D. Bingham joins this fistfight against members of the D.C. Blacks prison gang. This prison surveillance video would come back to haunt Bingham. In March 2006, it became evidence against him in federal court as he stood trial for murder and conspiracy with 3 other members of the Brotherhood's leadership. It was the government's attempt to punish a group of self-avowed outlaws who were already behind bars. But this time, they would face the most severe punishment: death by lethal injection. For decades, prison officials tried to break up the Aryan Brotherhood and failed. Now, prosecutors turned to a federal racketeering statute known as RICO. Under it, any member of a criminal organization would be liable for any crime that the organization carries out. In the case of the AB, prosecutors filed a 10-count indictment in 2002 against 40 brand members. Everything from extortion and drug dealing to multiple murders.
The government had to prove that there was a criminal enterprise that operated with the goal of being murder, extortion, drug trafficking, and that the defendants were members of that enterprise.
At the first of several trials, 4 top AB leaders went before the jury in March 2006. Christopher Gibson, Edgar Helth, and the men in charge of the Federal AB Commission, T.D. Bingham and Barry Mills. Federal prosecutor Terry Flynn introduced thousands of pieces of evidence against them, including assaults and murders, captured on videotape. The most graphic, this video, shot by a corrections officer at the Supermax. In it, Christopher Gibson and 2 associates carry out a vicious assault on an inmate named Michael Nevergall.
The Nevergall videotape depicts Christopher Gibson and 2 Mexican Mafia members stabbing an inmate in the ADX. It's a rather horrific video, and you can see Gibson and the other ones kicking and stabbing the inmate as he is lying in the middle of the rec yard.
Stabbed more than a dozen times, Nevergall barely survives the knife attack. After the video was introduced, prosecutors continued laying out their evidence, utilizing the Brotherhood's secret records. 2 key documents confiscated from an AB leader's cell in Marion Prison bolstered the case.
They're what I like to call the mission statements of the Aryan Brotherhood. Documents that detail how the Aryan Brotherhood will operate.
This one, written in 1993, reveals the intricate details about the brand. First, it clearly states the AB's intention. Our primary goal is to transform us from a dysfunctional prison gang into a viable and productive criminal organization. Then, it lays out the structure of commission, council, businessmen, and enforcers. Finally, the document reveals the gang's pledge. The AB asks for your mind, heart, and life. Do you give us that? The new member responds, I pledge my mind, heart, and life to the AB. Then, prosecutors turn the brand's own secret communication against it. They present the most damning evidence, a letter written in the complex biliteral code. It begins with the word Bubba and appears to congratulate an AB member on the birth of a baby. When prosecutors crack the code, they realize it's a call for a race war against the brand's nemesis, the DC Blacks prison gang.
The defendants had worked out a code for murder, baby boy versus baby girl. If it was going to be a baby boy, meant that it was going to be war with the DC Blacks.
A letter sent from the AB leadership deep within the walls of the Colorado Supermax led to the murder of 2 African Americans at the federal prison in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. The jury finds the 4 leaders guilty of murder, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit racketeering. But after 5 days of deliberation, jurors can't agree on a sentence. The judge declares a mistrial. The default sentence, life in prison. But all 4 men are already serving life sentences. Immediately after the trial, Flynn calls the case a success, saying it proves that the government will go after violent prison inmates. Others view the outcome as a failure.
What deterrent is a life sentence? Absolutely nothing. They're already doing life. Prison is their home. This is the environment they thrive in. So it's not a punishment.
We needed the death penalty to send a message to the others. We take the murder of other inmates and staff and civilians serious.
As a result of the 2002 indictment against the brand, all known members have been rounded up and placed in the most restrictive housing units. Officials believe they have the Aryan Brotherhood under control, for now. But they have no way of knowing which gang might become the next AB. Today, a bus full of inmates pulls up at Corcoran State Prison, one of California's most secure penitentiaries. These men are the newest arrivals. They're about to experience how the state is working to control prison gangs. Their destination is the Secure Housing Unit, or SHU.
Yeah, it's for the bad guys, meaning that they got in trouble somewhere along the line, inside of the prison. So now we need to further secure them even more.
To earn your way into the SHU, you've either assaulted someone in the general population, are a known gang member, or both.
A lot of gang members in the SHU? Probably the majority of them.
This is a rare glimpse inside the SHU. A prison within a prison, it's where the most problematic inmates are housed. And this is what yard time is like for a Corcoran SHU inmate. The only time they spend outside their cell is in a steel cage. Less human contact means less likelihood of murders and other crimes.
You're looking at it, you know what I mean? We get about 3 hours out here every other day. That's about it, you know what I mean? Other than that, you get your 3 meals a day and a 5-minute shower. That's it. You got 5 minutes. The rest of the time, you just sit in your cell and read, you know what I mean? Do what you can to try and maintain your sanity.
The Corcoran SHU can handle more than 1,000 inmates, and it often reaches capacity. For California AB members, they either serve their time in the SHU or cooperate with authorities and live out their years as protected inmates, but also as marked men. John Greshner and Bob Overton have spent most of their adult lives behind bars, but their willingness to turn on the Brotherhood has earned them points with authorities and a chance at parole. It's unknown if that will ever really happen. They say that they have stayed out of trouble on the inside, and they have a cautionary message.
If you stay in a gang, you're going to jail. Don't think you're the exception to the rule. Nobody's the exception to the rule. You know, I used to think all this stuff happened, yeah, him, that happens to them. It don't happen to me. Oh, it happens to you, too. It happens to everybody.
You know, this prison system is no glamour in here. There's nothing to bring somebody here. This is not a life. This is just an existence.
Michael Thompson lives a slower life compared to his days as a self-described AB warrior 30 years ago. Today, he talks of avoiding conflicts in the yard, but he speaks with a quiet, ominous warning.
So now I go out to this yard here, and I got some drunk that rides up on me, and he squares back, and he says, doubles up his fist, and he says, "Do we have a problem?" I'm thinking, I said, "No, sir, we don't." And I turn around and I walk away. See, that's part of my